Hey, how are you guys? About to go live. I think, well, I am live, but about to go live with someone, and we're about to talk about things related to the brain. Let's see.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Hi. Oh, no worries. I could not remember how to go live.
Oh, well, we figured it out. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm a little tired, to
All
be
right, yeah, it's
honest.
the end of the day, right? I know.
Yeah, winding down. Right. So I guess we can give it a little
This
time
evening.
for some people to join in.
Yeah. And thanks for joining me this evening.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Um,
You said you're where in Georgia?
right now I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. Nice. How are things
hmm
going down there?
It's good. I actually just moved down here about a year ago, but I've been going back and forth between the Bay Area and Atlanta, so like I'm kind of just getting situated. So, but so far it's been good.
Nice. You moved from San Francisco to Atlanta?
I was in the Bay Area for 6 years. I didn't like it, and my family's all here on the East Coast, so I'm just like, why? I didn't realize why I was doing that anymore. There was no point of being all the way that far, so I came back east.
Yeah. And you were working in the mental health space in San Francisco, or?
Yeah, I was working in various capacities and roles. I mean, I was at Planned Parenthood, as a Kaiser Permanente. I was at a community health center out there. I was at a dialysis clinic. So I was doing a little bit of everything out there.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, I guess we can get started.
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted you to introduce yourself to everybody, kind of tell us who you are, what you do.
Nice. Yeah. So my name is Dr. Philippe Dion. I'm a board certified neurologist. So I'm somebody who takes care of people when they have any problems with their brains, their nervous system in general. So their nerves, their spinal cord. And that can range, that can be a lot of different things. It could be somebody who's had a stroke, somebody who has
Mhm.
seizures, someone with headaches or back pain, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease. So there's a lot of different neurological disorders. And so I help people when they have those kind of issues going on. And I do a little bit of teleneurology. I'm also the author of the book, Neuroplasticity, Your Brain's Superpower. And I guess we'll talk a
Yeah.
little bit about neuroplasticity in
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I created the app, the game, Dr. Dion's BrainFit, which is a game that teaches people about how food and exercise impacts your overall health, but especially the health of your brain. Um, I am the founder of the health and wellness company, the Inley BrainFit Institute, and I am the creator and course instructor for the online course, Take Charge of Your Brain in 30 Days, where I work with people with neurological and chronic medical disorders to really help them get healthier, but also to help them really create the life that they want, despite whatever their diagnosis is. So,
Mhm.
so that's a little
You
bit
got a
about
lot
me.
going on.
Yeah, try to stay busy. You know, it keeps you out of trouble. I think when you're busy.
For sure, for sure. So you kind of led to this. So tell us a little bit about neuroplasticity, why that's important, and how that can be helpful for people who are struggling with their mental health, or even some of the conditions you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so for a long time we thought that our brains just didn't change, that we were born with the brains that we have, and the only thing that could potentially happen was that as we aged, maybe we'd get some degenerative disease and we'd start losing some brain cells as a result, or if there was a
Mhm.
trauma that happened, that we'd lose some brain cells that way, or maybe there was some other disorder that would impact our brains. But we now know that our brains are constantly evolving, that they're evolving with every thought we have, every conversation we take part in,
Mhm.
um, every action that we take. So our brains are constantly changing. And we have the ability our entire lives to make new neurons and new connections, right? So this is part of the reason why we're able to learn. And the fact that we've got the ability to make new neurons and connections, I think is really empowering, because one, it says that, look, we can heal from some injuries that occur to the brain, right? So that's really great to know, that we're not hopeless if something happens to our neurological system, that we can put in the work to get better. But I think what is even more empowering is the fact that if our brains have been designed to evolve, that means that we can evolve. We can evolve as individuals. We can evolve as a society. We can evolve as just a human race. We can evolve past any challenge or life situation that we face.
Absolutely. And it actually makes me think, when I was in therapy, I was struggling with depression at a point in my life, and my therapist was very adamant about me creating new memories for myself. And I guess that kind of goes along with that neuroplasticity idea, that, creating new synapses and, just changing and proactively working towards changing those ways in the brain. So thank you for that. So in terms of like a person struggling with like depression and anxiety, for my example, what would your recommendation be for them? A lot of people are coming to me like as a therapist wanting quick changes, fast changes, but that's just not the reality. What would someone like you, a board certified neurologist, recommend or say to that individual?
Yeah, so I think, you spoke a little bit to it, right? That you do have to have new experiences, and you do have to sort of make new memories. One of the things is that our brains and bodies are designed for us to be able to deal with short-term bouts of stress, right? But chronic stress can be detrimental to our brain. And in fact, chronic stress kills neurons in the parts of our brain responsible for making short-term memory. And so let's say, a lion walks into the room that I'm in, right? That's a stressor, right?
Yeah.
My brain wants me to survive. And so I'm going to focus on that lion. I'm going to focus on everything that has to do with that lion, its posture, where it is in the room, so that way I could potentially escape.
Yeah.
Right? But in that moment, that's the only thing that matters. So much so that all the excess cortisol that is now flooding my system, including my brain, is preventing the neurons in my hippocampus, in the part of the brain responsible for making short-term memory. It's preventing those neurons from working properly. So I'm not making any other memories aside from that lion. And so let's say, I survived that lion attack, and 2 weeks from now, I'm telling this story to my family and friends, and I'm like, yeah, I was attacked by a lion. And they say, well, what were you doing in that room? I may not remember, right? Because in the moment, that wasn't important.
Right.
What was important is doing everything I can to focus on that lion. And so if you take people who are chronically under stress, right? So that means they're secreting things like cortisol that are always preventing their neurons from functioning properly. That means that they're always focusing on the threat, whether the threat is there or not, whether the threat is real in that moment or not. And that as a result, they're not making new memories. And so they're always stuck in the trauma. And so I think finding ways to make new memories is incredibly important.
Wow, that was deep. And it actually makes me think of a person, or like, when we think about things like ACEs and childhood experiences or chronic stress or toxic stress, and you have those clients who've been exposed to nothing but stress their whole entire lives, like that individual may very likely be stuck there, like mentally. And that makes sense with the way you explain that. Thank you.
Yeah, and we often say too, like, look, a lot of times when people are depressed, it's because they're focused on the past, right?
Yeah.
And if there's pain in the past, if there's trauma in the past, and that's all that they're focused on, that can certainly make somebody feel depressed, right? But there's a
For sure.
physiological reason that they're focused on that past trauma. It's the way that their brain is wired, right? And I tell people all the time, the number one priority of your brain, number one priority is to keep you safe. And so sometimes by focusing on that past stressor, that past trauma, it's keeping you safe. So that way you know to avoid it in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was good. So I'm actually gonna divert a little bit. I'm thinking Alzheimer's. You mentioned it a little bit. I had actually a personal experience with it. We had a scare in my family. I had a friend who lost her dad. Can you speak a little bit to that in terms of like early signs, what people should look for? And I know I'm a little deviating, but now I'm fascinated and interesting because I have a personal experience with that.
Sure. So, you know, people are always terrified when they come to me that they might be having or developing
Hmm.
Alzheimer's, right? And it makes sense, right? I mean, memories sort of give our lives meaning.
Yeah.
They distinguish our lives from the lives of others, right? We want to remember who we are as well as
Hmm.
the people around us that we love and we care for. Um, One of the biggest myths when it comes to Alzheimer's is
Hmm.
that it's beyond our control. The reality is that there are things that we can do every single day that help minimize the risk of Alzheimer's disease. And in
Really?
fact, when we look at when we look at sort of the rate of certain diseases over the last 30 years, one of the things that we see is that, look, sedentary lifestyle and obesity has gone up. Type 2 diabetes has gone up.
Hmm.
And Alzheimer's disease has gone up. And in fact, you have some neuroscientists and neurologists that would say to you that there's such a close association between type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's disease that
Wow.
Alzheimer's disease is really type 3 diabetes, right? Some people may
Wow.
argue that, but the reality is that we know that people who have diabetes are much more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. And
Mm.
people who have diabetes and high blood pressure, that causes damage to the brain, which over time results in dementia. Whether you want to call it Alzheimer's or some other type of dementia, I mean, it kind of,
Hmm.
at some point doesn't make much of a difference, right? Because it's just
Right.
impacting how people think, it's impacting their memory, it's impacting their ability to live out their lives,
Hmm.
right? So, again, there are things that we can do every day to minimize the risk of Alzheimer's. Getting enough sleep is incredibly important. The amount of sleep that you get in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s impacts whether or not you could potentially develop something like Alzheimer's in your 70s, 80s, and 90s. The reason
Wow.
being that when we enter the deeper stages of sleep, that's when your
Hmm.
brain clears out a lot of the toxins that have built up throughout the day. That's when your
Okay.
brain is turning the things that you've learned into memory, right? If your brain is
Mm.
not allowed to clear out the toxins that have built up throughout the day, that's when you're going to get the accumulation of certain things that we associate with Alzheimer's, like
Mm.
amyloid plaques or tau proteins. Right?
Hmm.
So, getting enough sleep is really, really important. Minimizing your risk of preventable chronic diseases like diabetes and high blood
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
Um, you want to minimize stress because, like we said before, stress can kill neurons in the parts of your brain responsible for making memory. Right?
Wow.
You want to eat healthy. Not only does it increase your risk of things like diabetes if you don't eat healthy, but you know, when we eat food, it's
Hmm.
associated with a certain amount of work. It takes work to break food down, right?
Right.
And the more processed foods are, the more unhealthy they are, the more work that it takes. And as a result, you get a lot of byproducts. You get a lot of toxins that build up. As a result of
Wow.
those toxins, you get inflammation that occurs. And inflammation in the short term is not a bad thing. It's your body's way of trying to protect you. But
Hmm.
chronic inflammation has a really negative impact on your overall health and especially the health of your brain. So the inflammation doesn't just stay isolated to your gut, it goes all over and including your brain.
Wow. 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 Everything is so interrelated. And you mentioned sleep. So what about our folks, our clients or our patients who are struggling with sleep, who have like things like insomnia or have like PTSD that keeps them up all night? Like how do they balance or what do we say to them or how do we find a middle ground for those folks?
Yeah, and so I think it's really, really important to establish great sleep hygiene. And by sleep hygiene, I mean you've got to prepare your body to fall asleep, right?
Right.
So, I tell people all the time, the bedroom, the only things that should be happening in the bedroom, sleeping and sex. Get the TV
Absolutely.
out, get all the electronics out. You shouldn't be going to bed with your phone You shouldn't be scrolling through social media before going to bed. Those things are really stimulating. And in fact, our body, our brain responds to light, right? So
Mm.
when the light starts to dim, it's telling your body, okay, it's time to get ready for sleep, right? So
Yeah.
usually like melatonin gets secreted by your brain.
Hmm.
And so when it starts becoming evening and nightfall, that's when melatonin starts to be released, right? But that gets triggered by light. If you've got bright lights all over you, you're preventing melatonin from being released, and you're going to have trouble
Wow.
sleeping. If you're watching
Wow.
something that's stimulating and you're getting your sympathetic nervous system all riled up, right? You're going to have trouble going to sleep. If you're really
Yeah.
stressed out, you're going to have trouble going to sleep. If you just
Yeah.
ate a meal, right? You should not, your last meal should occur about 3 hours before you're going to go to bed, because
Okay.
the
Y'all
digestive
hear that?
process, yeah, the
3 hours.
digestive process can interfere with your ability to fall asleep. Your last
Wow.
caffeinated drink should occur probably 6 to 8 hours before you go to bed, right? Because it
Oh,
can
wow.
stay that long in your system. Um, and so, yeah, you want to do things that are going to help relax you, like taking hot showers, reading something really boring, you know, as well as staying away from the things that are going to stimulate you.
Okay. Wow. Wow. That was super insightful. And I hope you guys are taking notes, because I'm taking notes, because this is lots of good info. So can you talk a little bit about BrainFit, how you came up with the concept? Because it seems like I mean, the good news is that we can do a lot of work. We have a lot of tangible items that we can do to like help restore the brain or maximize our brain. And so can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I created the Inley BrainFit Institute actually when I was in private practice as an epilepsy specialist. And I created it because, right, I knew that there was so much more I could do for the patients that I was serving than just giving them a pill. And in fact, part of what made me a really good doctor was that, I would talk to my patients about all the things that were impacting their neurological health and their health in general, and
Mhm.
help them come up with a really comprehensive plan so that way they can get healthier and create the life that they want. And so what I ended up doing is that I partnered with a health and wellness spa that was right next door to one of my offices,
Mhm.
and worked it out with them where my patients could use their facilities under my direct and indirect supervision. And I would program exercise regimens for my patients based on their medical and neurological needs. And so then that evolved to me creating the app, Dr. Dion's BrainFit. Um, and yeah, and things just kind of went from there.
Wow, that's amazing. So people can still download this app.
Yeah, so they can still download it on in the App Store.
Perfect. So how does somebody, like, if they're interested in this brain fit or like doing this program, do they have to be where you're located in New York, or can they access this service from anywhere?
Yeah, so they can access my online course from anywhere. They can go to my website, which is inlebrainfitinstitute.com. So www.inlebrainfitinstitute.com. They can email me at philippeduyon@gmail.com. If they go just into my bio here and click on the link, that'll take them to my website. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to see if anyone has any questions in the chat or if I missed anything. Anyone have any questions for Dr. Philippe Dion? He's brilliant and doing a lot of amazing work and teaching us how resilient our brain truly is and how much work and capability we have. Not seeing too many questions. All right. Well, I mean, that's all I have. I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you. This is great. I actually took lots of notes for myself and, my work. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Next time we gotta talk about the work that you're doing, all the amazing stuff that you're doing.
Next time it will be about me. All right. You take care.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye. Oh, somebody asked, can you explain more about your course?
Yeah, so the course is really to help people get healthy and to help people create the life that they want. So the way that the course is broken up, it's broken up into 4 modules, and spread across those 4 modules, there's 70 lessons. And
Oh, wow.
so module 1 is about teaching people the importance of having a mission, vision, and purpose, and how that influences the evolution of the brain, right?
Mm.
Because we know that even a 90-year-old with a purpose is going to do better physically and cognitively than a 60-year-old who has no purpose, who sort of gets up sluggishly and goes about their day.
Interesting.
Module 2 is about teaching people all the things that impact their body and their brain. It's talking about preventable chronic diseases and the impact that that has on the brain. Module 3 is about teaching people to have a completely different relationship with their brain, teaching them to become the leaders that their brains so desperately need them to be. And it also
Mm.
teaches them about different neurological disorders. And then module 4 is about teaching people to create their own prescription plan, but one that's rooted in the development of their mind, body, and soul, so that way they can get healthier as well as create the life that they've always wanted for themselves.
This is good. This is good. I hope you guys are considering this because this sounds like really good stuff, especially if you're looking to make some changes in your personal lives or, professional lives. I think it could be helpful in either way. Any other questions? Thank you for that question. I am just Lonnie. All right. You're welcome. Any other questions? You got lot of love in here, but no questions. All right, well, I guess we'll try to wrap it up again. Thank you so much again. I'm going to actually look into the course because I probably think I could benefit from it myself. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. You take good care.
Thank you. You too. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.